Have you ever seen a good person change into someone bad? Maybe a leader who started helping people but ended up hurting them, or a friend who was once kind but became mean, or even yourself on those days when you look in the mirror and think, that's not who I was supposed to be. You know, history is full of these stories, people who started with the best intentions, but somewhere along the way, something went wrong. The scientist who wanted to make discoveries but created something harmful, the helper who became the very thing they fought against, the parent who swore to never be like their parents but finds themselves doing the exact same things. This isn't just about bad people in movies or news stories. This change can happen to any of us. The Bhagavad Gita warns us about this, how step by step good people can turn into what we might call monsters. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches Arjuna an important truth about all humans. He explains how a simple need can grow into something that destroys our wisdom and goodness. Any of us could walk this path without seeing it. Today I want us to explore these teachings together. We're going to figure out why good people can slip into darkness, and trust me, it's easier than you think. I'll show you the red flags to watch for in yourself and others. We'll talk about what exactly happens in your mind during this process, and most importantly, I'll share how you can prevent this from happening in your own life. What you're about to discover in the next 15 minutes could change how you see yourself and others forever. The Bhagavad Gita's teachings will reveal why even the most virtuous among us can fall, and more importantly, how to recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Stay with me, because this knowledge isn't just interesting, it's crucial for anyone who wants to remain true to themselves in a world that constantly tests our character. The Bhagavad Gita shows us something amazing about why we act the way we do. Today's psychologists are still figuring out how our minds work, but this text from thousands of years ago already knew the secrets of human behavior. It's like the Gita had the map to our inner world long before modern science started drawing one. The Gita reveals that all of us, whether saints or sinners, heroes or villains, are influenced by three fundamental forces called the Gunas, invisible colors that blend to create every shade of human behavior. First is Sattva, the force of goodness, clarity, and harmony. When this dominates, we're at our best, calm, wise, and compassionate. Then comes Rajas, the force of passion, action, and restlessness. It drives us to achieve, but can also fuel aggression and greed. Finally, there's Tamas, the force of darkness, inertia, and delusion. When this rules, we become ignorant, lazy, or destructive. In chapter 14, verse 10, Krishna explains, sometimes goodness prevails over passion and ignorance, sometimes passion prevails over goodness and ignorance, and sometimes ignorance defeats goodness and passion. This proves none of us are fixed in any one state. The saint has moments of selfishness, the criminal has flashes of compassion. We are all mixtures, constantly shifting between these forces. In chapter 16, Krishna speaks about divine and demonic qualities, making it clear that both exist as possibilities within us, the choice of which to nurture is ours to make every single day of our lives. This absolutely shatters the comforting illusion that some are permanently good while others are naturally evil. The potential for both lives within each of us, a truth that shakes us to our core and yet offers us the power to choose our path forward. Now we've come to the most critical part of our video, the exact process through which good people transform. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't just tell us that this change happens, it reveals the precise steps, just like a map showing the path to destruction. It all begins with something innocent, attachment, or karma in Sanskrit. This isn't just about material things. It could be attachment to an idea, a person, a belief, or even an outcome. Even the most noble people form attachments. A leader becomes attached to their vision. A parent becomes attached to their child's success. A teacher becomes attached to their method. But here's where it gets dangerous. When we become attached to something, we develop a burning desire to possess it, protect it, or promote it. Krishna warns about this in chapter 2, verse 62. While contemplating the objects of the senses, attachment develops. From attachment, desire is born. This desire, when it meets resistance, transforms into something darker. When we can't get what we desire, frustration builds. When someone threatens what we desire, anger, krodha, erupts. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone lose their temper when they don't get what they want? How many times have you felt that surge of anger when someone blocks your path? Krishna continues the verse, but this is still just the beginning of the transformation. Anger clouds judgment. When we are angry, we can't see clearly. We enter a state of delusion, moha. In this state, we justify actions we would never normally consider. We start believing our own distorted thinking. Once delusion takes hold, something truly frightening happens. Our very intelligence, our ability to discern right from wrong, begins to crumble. Krishna calls this the buddhinasa, the destruction of intelligence. We lose our moral compass entirely. Verse 63 completes this catastrophic sequence. From delusion, memory becomes confused. When memory is confused, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, one is ruined. This is how the transformation happens, not in a single dramatic moment, but through a series of small steps. A person doesn't go to bed virtuous and wake up monstrous. They follow this path, often without realizing it, until they become unrecognizable even to themselves. And the most terrifying part about it, this process doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone: the devoted religious leader, the respected community figure, the loving family member, or the principled activist. No one is immune, but understanding this process gives us power. If we can recognize these stages in ourselves, we can interrupt the transformation before it's complete. The Gita doesn't just diagnose the problem, it shows us exactly where intervention is possible. Think about that boss you might know, the one who started out passionate and idealistic. They once talked about changing the industry and treating people right. But watch what happened. Their attachment to creating something meaningful gradually shifted to an obsession with status symbols and profit margins. When the quarterly numbers dropped, remember how their anger surfaced, the way they started blaming their team instead of looking for solutions. Then came the concerning justifications. Everyone bends the rules sometimes, or this is just how business works. Before long, they cut safety corners, falsify records, mistreat staff, or harm consumers like disposable resources, all while believing they're just being practical. Let's take the example of Elizabeth Holmes. Holmes wanted to revolutionize healthcare by making blood testing more accessible. She spoke about changing the world and making diagnostics cheaper and faster. As Theranos struggled to deliver on its promises, her obsession with success led her to deceive investors and patients about the technology's capabilities. Instead of admitting failure, she falsified test results, misled investors, and put patients at risk, all while believing she was just doing what was necessary to stay competitive. This is just one of millions of examples of good, virtuous people whose ambition and the will to do the right thing turned them evil. But we don't have to look for a modern-day example in the corporate world. This could be a person you once admired, considered your hero. One of such people would be Lance Armstrong. Armstrong was a cycling legend and cancer survivor, inspiring millions with his unbreakable will. He built the Livestrong Foundation to help cancer patients. His attachment to winning at any cost led him to use performance-enhancing drugs while ruthlessly destroying the careers of anyone who tried to expose him. When the truth came out, his achievements were stripped away, and his reputation was permanently tarnished. His desire for greatness led to deception, and deception led to disgrace. The best of the best amongst us have the ability to go evil, but what if I tell you that you don't need to quote famous people as the perfect examples? One may find these examples right in their homes. Have you ever seen a parent who wanted the best for their child? Maybe too much. They became so attached to their vision of success that when their teenager chose a different path, it felt like a personal rejection. Arguments escalate. Then came those moments of parental delusion. They're throwing their life away, or they'll never make it without my guidance. Eventually, the same parent who once promised to always support their child's dreams starts manipulating, threatening, or emotionally withdrawing. all while convinced they're showing tough love. It can be seen even within our friendship. That small attachment to being right in an argument, the desire to have the last word, the flash of anger when challenged, the delusion that your friend always does this, and suddenly you're saying things that you can't take back to someone you genuinely care about. What makes this so chilling is how invisible each step feels in the moment. Each compromise seems so small, so reasonable at the time. Each justification paves the way for the next, slightly bigger one. We don't wake up one day deciding to become someone we'd hate. We slide there, one tiny choice at a time. That executive never planned to become corrupt. That athlete never intended to betray the trust of his fans. That parent never thought they'd damage their relationship with their child. That friend never meant to betray. Yet it happens, in the sequence Krishna mapped out thousands of years ago, from attachment to desire, to anger, to delusion, to destruction. The chain remains as powerful in our digital age as it was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And here's the most unsettling part. In nearly every case, the person still sees themselves as the good guy in their story. The monster rarely recognizes its own reflection. If this transformation can happen to anyone, then how do we protect ourselves? The Bhagavad Gita doesn't just diagnose the disease, it reveals the early warning signs before its infection takes hold. The first red flag appears when we become defensive about our attachments. Krishna warns that when we react with immediate hostility to any questioning of our pursuits or possessions, we've already begun the descent. Pay attention when you find yourself endlessly justifying your actions. In chapter 18, Krishna speaks of those who engage in work with great effort, maintaining I am the doer. This ego-driven self-justification signals that delusion is taking root. Watch for the moment when rules suddenly become flexible, but only for you. The Gita describes how those falling into darkness begin to see themselves as exceptions. That which should be feared, they do not fear. When you start believing you're above the principles you expect others to follow, you're standing at the edge of the abyss. Notice when your thinking becomes absolutist. The Gita describes how those in darkness see everything in extremes. When complexity disappears and everyone is either ally or enemy, wisdom is already eroding. Most critically, be aware when your compassion begins to fade. Krishna emphasizes that true wisdom manifests as compassion for all beings. When you start seeing others as obstacles or tools rather than souls deserving of dignity, the transformation is well underway. These warning signs aren't curses, they're gifts. By realizing them early, we gain the power to interrupt the sequence before we become unrecognizable to ourselves. The true power of the Bhagavad Gita lies not in its revelation of our darkest tendencies, but in its pathway back to the light. Krishna doesn't merely explain how good people become monsters, he reveals how monsters can become human again. The first step towards restoration is radical self-awareness. In chapter 6, Krishna instructs, one must elevate oneself by one's own mind, not degrade oneself. The mind alone is one's friend, the mind alone is one's enemy. This means developing the courage to see ourselves clearly, to recognize when our downfall has begun, and to be honest about our attachments with self-deception. But awareness alone isn't enough. The Gita offers a powerful practice called karma yoga, the discipline of action without attachment to results. Krishna explains, you have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work. This isn't about abandoning goals or ambitions. It's about performing actions with excellence while letting go of our need to control the results. This leads to the idea of detachment, not being cold or uncaring, but changing how we relate to our desires. Krishna teaches that we should act from duty, dharma, rather than desire, karma. When duty guides our actions, we stay true to our values even when temptations pull us elsewhere. What this means in real life is very powerful. A leader focused on duty will help those they serve even when it doesn't make them more money or more famous. A parent guided by duty will support what their child truly wants, instead of forcing their own dreams on them. But Krishna knew this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires disciplined practice. In chapter 6, he outlines practices of meditation and self-restraint, emphasizing the middle path. Yoga is not for one who eats too much or too little, sleeps too much or too little. This balance extends to all areas of life. The Gita warns against both indulgence and extreme self-denial. The path back to our true nature lies in mindful moderation, being fully engaged in the world while keeping your inner peace. Perhaps most powerfully, Krishna reminds us that no one is beyond redemption. In chapter 9, he declares, "Even if a person of the most sinful behavior worships me with undivided devotion, they should be regarded as righteous because they have decided rightly." The door to restoration remains open, regardless of how far we've fallen. This is the ultimate message of hope from the Gita. The same forces that enable our descent also allow our rise. The same mind that can be our enemy can become our greatest ally. The same capacity for attachment can be transformed into a capacity for devotion to higher principles. The monster can become human again, not by denying the darkness within, but by bringing it into the light of awareness and choosing, moment by moment, to walk the path of Dharma. But what is the path to Dharma? We'll discuss this in our next video. So stay tuned, and you might want to hit a like and subscribe button to receive the notifications to our upcoming videos. By the way, what's the biggest attachment in your life that you struggle to let go of? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll reply with a solution. Till then, see you soon with another enlightening journey through the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita.